broken down right into different videos as well, again because of timing. um and I'm trying to get through them as quickly as possible. Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, how are William and Catherine feeling about the coronation? So I think I sort of hinted it uh in the previous reading, the previous video. Yeah, they want to set everything on fire. So like this card here, right? Literally, a carriage, a royal carriage, and then this one right here, fire. But then they want to set things on fire, but in a way that makes it seem as if it's both slightly on purpose, but not really on purpose. So really similar to the energy that Meghan Markle, and then eventually Prince Harry was giving off. That energy of, for example, I remember in the early stages, like in the beginning, right, when she would wear a dress or a skirt that is sort of transparent, and you would see her underwear underneath, right? And knowing that she has a sort of mentality of maybe like grabbing attention on, or like some people were saying that Harry is just a stepping stone for her to get to wealthier men, right? So it's kind of like seen as marketing her goods for those who have that mindset, who believe that about her, right? So it's like, and definitely that was the energy that she was giving off as well. So with that knowledge, and then what she ended up sort of doing, things like wearing a transparent skirt, people would be asking, surely, like, is she doing it on purpose? I think she is. I mean, she has to be, because she looks like she's unaware of it. But at the same time, how can you not be aware that your skirt is going to be showing your underwear? Like, because surely as a royal, before you step out, you're going to examine your skirt and see and check whether it's going to work on the different lightings, right? Something like that. So that kind of ambiguous energy, that's definitely what the Cambridges are carrying. Yeah. So like this card here, so yeah, the royal carriage, that's definitely them. And again, it's similar to the coloring that they wore, the cape, the blue and red clothing that they wore for the capes that they wore for the coronation, Charles's coronation. um and this card here, the kind of like child spirit, the childish spirit, whereby, when a child does something, you wonder if they're doing it on purpose, if they know what they're doing or not. Like at some point, you give them the benefit of the doubt, but then these children here, so signifying Kate and William, they're at an age where mentally you wouldn't expect them to know the full consequences of what they're doing. So you could give them the benefit of the doubt, but then at the same time, there's also that doubt of, well, they're not really babies in pampers, in nappies anymore. They can stand on their own, and to some extent even they can be unsupervised. So what are they really doing if not looking at the fire and deciding to do nothing about it? So in other words, even if they didn't do the start the fire on purpose, and by fire I mean in the physical realm, like the treatment of and the treatment towards Prince Charles, the behavior of the media sort of like covering Prince William and his wife a lot more than Prince Charles and his, I mean, I keep saying Prince Charles, it's just Charles and his wife, right? Things like those. It's like setting fire to the royal institution. And you wonder, is William doing it on purpose or not? Blah blah. With everything that I've said in looking at the cards, right? Um, you might wonder, why am I still sort of being ambiguous? Is William doing it? Because in the physical room, that's what it looks like. There's never gonna be, and that's intentional. Like there's never gonna be a 100% energy of intentionality. At least not for now. In the future, definitely, it's gonna become much more obvious. Just like it became obvious about Meghan Markle doing things more intentionally, rather than it just being an accident in quote. Yeah, like when she stepped on Princess Eugenie's thunder, um on her wedding, announcing her pregnancy. Then people started like picking up and believing that, yeah, this is 100% intentional, and then all her previous actions as well might definitely actually have been intentional. That's going to be the same for Prince William, and Catherine Middleton. Yeah, so it's like them being as intentional here. So the fire I'm talking about is all those articles towards Charles and his wife, Camilla, the hit pieces. Again, the fact that there's fire, right? Which is the antithesis. It's like the opposite of being on a snowy mountain. It's like snow. Uh these children, some of them, they have snow ski utensils, like they have skis. In other words, they're ready for the type of environment. What I'm trying to say, in essence, is that the articles now about Camilla and towards Camilla or against Camilla, they are not the same with the same energy or intentionality as the previous articles about Camilla in the past. The articles about Camilla in the past were very much about sort of like exposing her in the way that other royal family members would be exposed. But now it's very different. It's more like exposing her for the sake of putting William and Catherine on a pedestal because they're overtaking them. Yeah, in the spiritual. And I've explained that already. So it's like, in essence, the normal setting, in other words, the normal articles like criticizing Camilla and what she's done in the past, right? In other words, these children being in, having like the normal clothing for this type of environment, like in matches, right? Having this normal clothing, the skis, the ski mask, the clothing, the coats, the things, the sticks, all of that, right? I don't know the word for it, but the sticks, in to be able to cope with this icy environment, in as much as that is the norm, this normal type of behavior to match the environment, it's actually still not the norm. So it's kind of like showing a dual energy, dual spirit. And I'm picking up this dual spirit like all throughout in royal readings and for the foreseeable future as well. Very much a sense of they know what they're doing. In other words, they're prepared, right? They have the coats, they have everything prepared in preparation for the icy environment. But there's fire there. So what is fire doing on ice? Like it's such a a disparity. But at the same time, again, you always come back. In other words, like the cycle is never gonna be broken. That cycle of half accidental, half intentionality. Yeah, because like the cycle, because even if you want to believe that, oh, they didn't know, they are not the ones who started the fire, but then they're not running away from it either. They're not looking for help. So it really means, like if a fire gets started, and a fire as big as this, certainly in comparison to the size of the children, right? Or the stature of the children, if there's such a fire, you would expect them to be running, from like just running helter skelter, trying to find maybe water, or trying to, like douse the fire. I mean, the fire is so big, there's even black smoke. Like that's how bad it's gotten. And also that's how bad these articles against Charles and his wife have gotten and are getting and are going to become. So you would expect, if it's this bad, they're gonna see the smoke. Even if maybe, let's say, okay, they're children, right? In quote, they don't know how to stop the fire. At least run away from the smoke, right? Because the smoke could come on you. It's black, it's dark. Surely you should be coughing by now. But they look unbothered. At least to some extent. Like they certainly do not look like they're about to get away. Yeah. So this cycle energy of accidentally on purpose, it's not going to go away. And the reason I'm saying that it's not going to go away is because a lot of people might think it will. In other words, I'm sensing like people waiting for something to drop or not drop at all. And I've explained this in, again, previous readings. If I find the readings, I'll open them and put the links, or anyone watching this, maybe you can ask me to find the link for you, and I'll do that, yeah, in time. But I've mentioned that William's power, it comes from pretending accidentally on purpose type of energy. So to break this energy around you, because again, with the power of the royals, it doesn't, the power of the royals is very much spiritual as well as physical, of course, financial, all of that. Just like the royals have their face is on money, and money gets distributed all around the world, all around the country, right? There are pound notes in America, regardless of whether there are royals there. There are pound notes in Australia, pound notes even in Africa. People carry it in their purses. Really. So what I'm trying to say, that's a similar way, like the energy, the power of the royals, right? It spreads. It is spread, whether people want to or not, whether people realize it or not. Therefore, just like you can have somebody sitting next to you that has a a pound note that has the face of, Charles, right? And they're sitting next to you. Likewise, the energy of the royals can be next to you or around you and you wouldn't know it. So what I'm trying to say is this gaslighting spirit of Williams, it's so pervasive that people do not even see where it's coming from, neither do they know how to deal with it. Yeah, and it's something that I've continued saying. And one of the ways that they try to maybe not deal with it, but they try to cope with it by anticipating that things are going to settle. Things will never ever settle down. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And again, really similar to this energy of almost like familiarity, but then also awkwardness, in that what I just said, right? Some people might think or say, well, of course, things will not really settle down because the world has never really settled down. There's never been world peace. Well, we're getting there, we're working towards it. But what I'm trying to say is, it's even though it's the same environment of continued chaos, like in the past, there have always been wars. I mean, in fact, there's been a First World War, a Second World War. In fact, we're relatively peaceful right now, and even though things are quite hectic, it's going to die down and we're going to be working towards peace. It's not the case at all. If anything, like, this cycle is going to come back to accidentally on purpose creating a situation whereby a war can take place again. So it's like it's never going to stop for people who sort of expect for, let's say, like William to stop antagonizing Charles's spirit, or for that energy of gaslighting, that energy of, is this person doing it accidentally or on purpose? So the reason I was giving that example about the royal family's energy being everywhere, like the pound note, is so that you understand how it also end up affecting your life or your environment. Because there are people, depending on how much the spirit of the royals is wrapped on that person, they're going to be doing things that seem like it's accidental or on purpose. Yeah. And those who will be on the receiving end of those energies might feel as though they just need to wait in order to see whether it is accidental or on purpose. But the longer the wait, the worse it's just going to get. Like, there's never going to be any time. So pertaining to your question about like the Cambridges, there's never going to be any time where it is categorical that William will never do this to Charles. Never. No matter what their fans say. Like, their fans might say something like, oh, William will never do this to Charles and blah, blah. But it's never going to stick. There's never going to be that reassurance that, yeah, they're not lying. William would never, ever do that, right? I mean, it's like, if I say right now, Diana would never not love her children, you could believe that. Let's say even maybe 98% believable that, yeah, I can see that she would never not love her children. But when it comes to this William issue or the Cambridges, they would never not want to sabotage Prince Charles and Camilla. So because of that, the energy is never going to be settled. Certainly around the royal family, it will never be settled. And because of the influence of the royal family, again, through money, political influence, I mean, they're ahead of the Commonwealth. These things matter spiritually. So it means those underneath them will also never have that reassurance that things are going to be settled. Yeah. So really, like this, it all ties into the coronation, because it's in the coronation that they really set their faces to being deliberate about it, whilst also gaslighting everyone through their silence. Through their silence, yeah. Because even though, one can interpret that the children here are speaking to each other or just speaking, this card, you can't interpret that there's speech, because there's no one on this boat, there's nobody, so it means through their silence, they allow the fans to create an alternative reality for them. So I'm kind of wondering out of your question, but it all ties into your question as well about the Cambridges and the coronation, right? Because it's due to that coronation. The coronation, they use the coronation just like the royals use the death of the queen, to start off a new paradigm that would stick. So they've used it whereby, again, the coloring of the coronation, the clothes that they wore, it keeps coming back to me. You know, they used the coronation to record themselves behind the scenes, and they uploaded it and the headlines. And then shortly after that, again, Catherine, she went on a flower event, right? And Camilla went on an event, I think the same day. So these are the behaviors that, and I think Catherine's event was sort of like unannounced or something of that nature. So it certainly was not foreseeable, is what I'm trying to say. In other words, even if one could say, someone can tell me that, oh, you're just supposing the royal courtiers and the family and even Camilla, she knew about it, right? Okay, even if you want to assume that the public didn't, like the public could not foresee that a few days, like shortly after the coronation, where Charles and his bride are supposed to be at the head of the headlines, it would be Kate who comes, and on the very same day, especially in light of what people had been, the fans of this couple of Catherine and William had been telling us continuously about Meghan trying to grab the headlines, doing impromptu visits when the Cambridges had their own events, right? Things like tagging along so that there'd be a fight on the headlines. Literally, that same spirit is what is at play with Catherine and Camilla, and Charles. So it's like that is what the coronation has allowed the Cambridges to do, to be able to push this dual reality. They will do one reality where they are definitely doing it in your face. It is as clear cut as this. In other words, yes, yes, we're going to grab the headlines. We're doing this behind the scenes things. We're coming up late. We're doing all these things. But you're not going to fully believe that we're not doing it on purpose. Like, no, you're not going to fully believe that we're doing it on purpose. And you're also not going to fully believe that we're not doing it on purpose. Why? Because number one, we are not going to answer your, like, the rumors that you're starting, the rumors that you're, like, the questions you're asking, right? Again, similar to Meghan Markle, she didn't answer, but she certainly answered through her silence in one way, and also the actions that followed afterwards, almost like doubling down in a really microaggressive ways. Yeah. And so secondly, using the fans. So like we're gonna use our fans, or the people, or the demons, half humans, half demons that work for us, to convince you that we're not doing it on purpose. But we, the principals, like the principals involved, we're not going to tell you whether we're doing it on purpose or not. In fact, we're never going to tell you our intentions, but we're going to allow our fans to gaslight you and tell you what we are thinking. Yeah. So regardless of whatever I even say in the cards, right? Let's say you even want to believe the Cambridges, right? Always remember that the Cambridges are not their fans. The Cambridges are not their fans. So when you remember this, you're going to remember that whatever the fans are saying, no matter how much you want to believe it, it is still only the fans that are saying it and not the Cambridges. Yeah. So that's one thing to just hold on to. I mean, but I know looking in the spiritual, that really they and their fans are one. There's no difference. But I'm saying this for the purposes of breaking free from the paradigm, from the gaslighting, the paradigm of gaslighting that the they and their fans have been doing and doing on people. Yeah. Because trying to once you start trying to separate them from their fans and think, okay, well, their fans might be saying this, and as much as I want it to be the truth and it sounds good, I don't know if I really believe it. As like once you start wanting to think in that direction, you're gonna notice how the fans will, especially in your mind, or that is in the spiritual realm, they're gonna almost like insist that they know best for the Cambridges. Why? Because they've been there all along. They've been there for the Cambridges all along. Therefore, who are you who has just come in, or who has not been as faithful a follower as the and defender as they have, because they've defended them against Meghan Markle, right? And the public criticism in the way they handled Meghan Markle. So they use the argument of like, or the energy of, we know them better because we've stuck by them. So who are you to tell us that we'll be saying things that are a lie? Yeah, but it can be a lie, especially if it's to paint the Cambridges in a good light, in a good enough light. So just something to remember. But really, all this ties into your question about the coronation. That is how they feel. They feel like gaslighting. Yeah. What gaslighting? The gaslighting I've just been describing that they do with their fans towards the public. How did King Charles III, William, Catherine, and the rest of the royal family feel about seeing Harry at the coronation? At this point, it's not even about Harry. Yeah. Because what I've just described, I mean, in the previous question, I think it clears it up about where they're all standing. Yeah. So Harry is not even the main attraction, not anymore. The Cambridges have sort of like sidestepped. They're like, there's no time for this. There's no time for this. Very disdainful. There's no time for this. We have to move on. Like, so these two characters, individuals, right? Destroying the clock. They're like, so they're also using their fans, both their fans and the silence, uh, to destroy the opportunities that time has given to Harry and Meghan. But their focus is not Harry and Meghan. But nonetheless, they have been and are using their silence to destroy this clock. And a clock can signify time, obviously. But what I'm trying to say is, signifies time. But time holds a lot of power, because through time, with time, you can gather enough evidence that you have been offended, you've been wronged, right? So I'm talking about Harry and Meghan versus the Cambridges. With time comes enough, like, time carries grace to do mistakes that the public would not forgive for the Cambridges. Time carries support. Time carries pity. All these, time carries a lot, right? So, but that's what the Cambridges are destroying with regards to Harry and Meghan, but through their silence. Almost like, so that's why you'd see people. This is an attempt for the Cambridges to turn the tide. Sorry, I keep jumping, but I hope it'll make sense to you. They're trying to turn the tide, of course, through their silence and in the way they're gunning for Charles. Charles is their main focus. But through their silence, it's in order to destroy this clock, right? Although they're not going to succeed, because the clock, I mean, look at the material, it's strong enough. But they're still trying, and they have succeeded to this extent here, like to this extent that you can see. So it's not as round anymore, and you can, in the physical realm. So what it means in the physical realm is that you see a lot more people than usual telling Harry and Meghan to shut up. They're only saying that Harry and Meghan should shut up, not because, let's say, it's not interesting, because deep down they actually are interested, like they want to know, if not just to use it against Harry and Meghan, if that makes sense. But nonetheless, they're willing to tell Harry and Meghan to shut up because it's juxtaposed, it's put in comparison with the heaviness of the silence of the Cambridges. So that heaviness is loud, and it is loud on purpose. Somebody can be silent and the silence is not even going to be noticed. right? Because they don't want it to be noticed. It's like we're going about our business. But when it comes to with the Cambridges, when it comes to the Cambridges, when they're going about their business, it is loud. It is intentionally loud. It's like, look at you, what you're doing here. We are going to go about so they're speaking, they're actually speaking in the spiritual realm. They are using their silence to speak. Yeah. So it's on purpose. So it's like a dual card. Um doing something here whilst doing something else in the background, really, really loud here, and then pretending to be sort of like neutral in the background and just going about their business and having the high moral ground. But it's not working. It's really not working. It's no longer working. It's worked to some extent. So which is why, again, some people, unlike before, more people were telling Harry and Meghan to shut up, right? But not anymore. Like, it's no longer going to work. Yeah. Are the reports true that William wants to punch Harry? So I'll say this, like what I'm getting, he wants to punch Charles, but not Charles specifically, or like the physical version of Charles in the spiritual. Like the spiritual matters a lot more to William because he, unlike many people of the public, he sees the value and the power of the spiritual realm. He knows that if he punches Charles in the spiritual, he doesn't have to do any, like he doesn't have to do much, if anything, in the physical realm. It's just going to work itself out. Like I was describing about Diana's death, in that the royals didn't specifically orchestrate it, like in the physical realm, a specific car. They just donated to a sort of like ritual in this or like sacrifice in the spiritual realm, and then it manifested in the form of a car crash. It could have manifested in the form of a skiing accident, right? But no, it was a car crash. So if anything, like William would like to sit back in the physical realm. You would see, and that's one of the reasons why it's so easy for them to keep silent, William and Catherine, for them to maintain a silence, because they're so heavy on the spiritual front. They're so heavily involved in that spiritual front that it's not even funny. And they've been working. So whenever you see them going out, it's really just to fulfill all righteousness. But before going out, even, right? So that the power of their silence and going about their business is going to be that strong and powerful and loud. They've done a lot of work in the background, in the spiritual realm. Yeah. So what I'm getting is, pertaining to your question, he wants to punch Charles. Once Charles, I mean, Harry is not even in his side anymore, which is unfortunate because that's a blind spot. But I guess that's what happens when someone thinks they're on the throne. Yeah. Um, how are William and Catherine feeling about the new titles of Prince of Wales and Princess of Wales? They don't care. They don't care. They've become really insolent. Really insolent. As I'm reading your questions, I don't even need to like see the other side because they won't allow me. Their spirit won't allow me. Yeah. Because they find it offensive. They're like, we're trying to burn everything down and you want to take us back to when we cared. Yeah. To when we used to care. No, we're trying to burn everything down. It's on purpose. See, we're not running away. Yeah. Yeah. They're like, literally, the spirits are really actually confronting me right now because I'm picking it up so strongly. They're like, this facade of water that in front, at the front, we're like water, cool, calm, collected. No, this is what we're really doing in the background. And soon enough, you're going to see. But we're never going to tell you that because our fans will always convince you that we're not doing it on purpose. Yeah. So for anyone, again, another solution, anyone who wants to break free from this paradigm like of gaslighting, do not even bother looking at the fans. I'm not saying don't read the comments. No, you can read it and that will enable you to see through the lies and the gaslighting. But what I'm trying to say is do not go in when you want to read, do not go in believing the fans. Yeah. Take their words with a grain of salt. I mean, similarly to how you would take the words of the Sussex Squad, with a grain of salt, especially in the beginning when they tried to make Meghan like this superstar rather than someone who half the world barely even know and the other half barely even knew, sorry, and the other half didn't even care. Yeah. So yeah, they don't really care about the new titles. Next question. Does William wish? Just checking the time. Does William wish that his father Charles would have let him become king? Categorically, yes, yes, yes. Sorry, let me be reading the full questions. Does William wish that his father Charles would have let him become king instead? Yes. Categorical. Categorical. Yeah. He's like, what are you waiting for? Oh, yeah. He's like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Move this here. Yeah. Fire, fire. So the fire card has come up here. In this reading, a lot of times I'll be prompted to pull out cards or a card. And then when I read the next question, I then see why I was prompted, because now I'm getting that he's really on fire about fire, William. One of the reasons why it's not going to work is because he isn't fire. He's not a fire person. He's water. I've done readings on him before. He is a water spirit. Him and his wife, they are water, but they're trying so hard. And they don't have to try so hard. I mean, they really don't. They had love of the public. So it's really on them. And I'm really saying this explicitly because there are things that are going to happen that there would be no doubt that the blame is to be placed on William and Catherine's feet, because they could have tried harder to stick to the water spirit, but instead they chose to become fire and fight. Yeah. So this card is pertaining to your question about what is the relationship like between William and his father Charles. Burning. Yeah, burning. Next question. What were William's relationships like with with Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip? Again, burning. Now, this is not how it used to be before, and I'm actually so thankful that I did readings in the past, simply because if it was now, it would be so almost like unbearable for me to pick up those energies of how they used to almost like get along to that extent in the past, because William he and his fans, like they have shut down every avenue to see him as anything other than fire, especially when it comes to his relationships with other family members. So I'm trying to say, pertaining to your question, what were William's relationships like with Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip? I don't see anything except fire. And because that's what he wants. That's what he wants. It doesn't mean that I can't see if I were to dig deep, but I don't want to dig, because why should I dig deep if this is what he wants me to see? Right? It's like, it would be like me trying to impose his past reality on him presently, almost like trying to impose. If someone has lost weight, what's the point of reminding them that they used to be fat, that they used to be big? There's no point, except maybe you're trying to give them a lesson that, okay, remember this so that you will not overeat. But then there's no lesson. I have no lesson to teach the Cambridges, because they don't want to learn either. They're so headstrong and face down, even more headstrong than Meghan Markle, and that should say something. So right now, at this moment in time, they're much more headstrong than Meghan Markle ever could have been or ever was. Yeah. Well, ever was, not ever could have been. Yeah. Um So yeah, with regards to his relationship with the Queen and Prince Philip, I really I don't see it. He doesn't want it to be seen any other way than fire. Like, I'm on the throne now. I'm on the throne. I mean, William is the kind of spirit at this point whereby he would not even want the Queen's achievements to be talked about. It's almost like when he comes on the throne, There never was another royal in living memory. Yes, you can remember. In fact, I want you to remember the previous royals because I want that crown of prestige on me. You know, those previous like royals in the 16th century or wherever with the crown and the regalia and all of that. Yes, I want that image to be next to me, my image. But anything other than that, like this modern method of doing things, no, I don't want to hear it. You know, any imagery of royalty not being worshipped when they're walking on the streets, not being bowed to, that you would dare see a royalty like him, like himself, and not bow because we're in the 21st century and you don't have to bow if you don't want to. No, 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 I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Do not link those people to me. So he's angry, he's furious that it's not that they did not pave the way. They meaning Prince Philip, who was married to the Queen, his Queen, um, or the Queen of his kingdom, right? Because he sees it as his kingdom now, slowly but surely. And then Prince Charles. William is angry at all of them that they did not make it an easy task for him to come through to the throne using his full powers. It's like, what's the point of being royalty if you're not going to use it on the serfs? Like SERFS, I think is the way it's spelled. Like the the minions. What's the point? There's no point. Therefore, I'm going to burn everything down. I'm going to burn things down in my own fashion and then rebuild it from scratch. But what he like and rebuild it from scratch. But the burning it and rebuilding it is very much a simultaneous process in that he thinks no one is watching. So like you can see here at the back of the card, it's like there's water. So the water being William and Catherine, like William's cool spirit, right? The water, the cool spirit, the calm spirit. He's not doing anything offensive. He's inoffensive. He's just going about his business, like in a heavy way, just heavily going about his business. But then if you look closer, I mean, you don't even have to look closer, but you'll see fire. It's not in the background because it's part of the card, really, and it's as loud as the water, but only if you look up and only if you know what you're looking for or you know what you're looking at, will you see the fire and not mistake the fire for just more bubbles, more water bubbles. I hope that I'm making sense here. So that's what he wants to do, and that's what he's been doing, especially since the coronation. So I appreciate your questions about the coronation. Feel free to ask me more on them. If you have time and you want me to do a reading on it, I certainly will, because I'm sensing that that's like the beginning, the genesis of Williams really burning things down whilst building up all at the same time, like literally, because this is what the card shows, right? It's simultaneous water, simultaneous fire. Yeah, so he's burning things down whilst pretending that he isn't, right? And his fans covering it up, like using water, washing the image, washing his image. But there's fire underneath, there's fire in the background, there's fire at the top. He's not even hiding it because you can see the fire is on top. So it's not like he's trying to hide it underneath. No, the fire is on top. But at the same time, again, the energies are very much circular. It's dual. It's like almost repetitive, but different energies repeating themselves. Like it being at the top means both means he's not trying to hide it, but he also is. Because it's so high at the top, you would have to look up to see it. If you're just looking at the middle of the card, right? I mean, I could almost use this card, bring it here. If I were to bring this card here, like this, you would actually still be able to see the fact that the fire is almost like close to the top as opposed to being slightly below and even in the middle means, okay, it's on purpose what he's doing, because he's doing it on purpose so that it will go unnoticed, almost unnoticed, except for those who are really paying attention. But then the thing about William and his hubris and Catherine and their hubris, they think no one is wise enough to look up. That's really it, the Achilles heel. But we are. So, but if I were to bring this card here, you would think there's no fire, like this amount of fire, certainly. You wouldn't be able to guess that. And really, you wouldn't even, the other point, you wouldn't even suspect, because Why wouldn't you suspect? Because I'm not hiding half of the card. If I was hiding half of the card, you might say to yourself, well, is she hiding something? Is he hiding something, right? But if I'm showing more than half, a lot more than half, you will just think the rest of the card up here is the same as what is underneath. And so therefore, that's why I'm not even bothering to show you the full card like here, because it's all one and the same. So yeah, there's no point. So it's that blind spot, like people really thinking, well, if it was really that big of a deal, what the Cambridges have been doing with the behind the scenes, the coronation, turning up late, if it was really that bad, if it was really fire, if it was really fire, if they were really trying to burn it down, they would tell us, they would let us know, even if they don't come right out verbally and tell us, look, we've been able to see through Meghan Markle, so of course we're going to see through them if they were doing what she's doing in bringing out the monarchy, right? Because that's in essence what he's been doing, William. Except he's rebuilding it in his own fashion, the monarchy. So like there's this assumption that on his part that people will no longer look because they'll just think or assume that, yeah, because they saw Meghan Markle and they were able to suss her out and see what she was doing, therefore people will not see the same patterns on William. And then even if they can, they'll just assume, much like again with the size of the water compared to the size of the fire on this card, they'll just assume that any fire that they're seeing is a projection. They're just projecting Meghan Markle's behavior on the Cambridges. It's an exaggeration. We're not really like that because look, we're showing you our cards, right? At least as much as we can. And they hide behind royal life, confidentiality, our private life. They hide behind those words to not show the public the full picture, or at least the public that cares, right? And doesn't believe them. They don't show the full picture. They almost like just assume the full picture is like this water. We're going about our business and we have nothing to do with bringing the house down. Just assume that because we're not showing you the full card. But look, we're showing you most of it, the majority of it, right? So, and again, they'll use like Meghan Markle and Harry as an example. Like, unlike Meghan and Harry, they talk a lot. Unlike us, we are quiet, but we certainly show you most of our activities, like our lives, right? We just demand a little bit of privacy, right? Uh, but not knowing, right? The public not knowing that this privacy is very different from what they can imagine. It isn't water, it's fire. It's the fire that Meghan and Harry. So Meghan and Harry's own is actually the reverse. Like they talk a lot. So they blow like fire. Let's say fire in this case would be synonymous to the words they use that keep setting fire to the royal fandom. It keeps setting fire to the world, to the newspapers, right? So yeah, they talk a lot. They send a lot of fire, but they're just a reflection of the Cambridges. What they do that is visible to the public, the Cambridges do in private, i.e. in the spiritual realm. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to continue in next videos. Thank you.